Hi guys, I'll give you an update today. I'm in Normandy and I'm walking along a beach, as you can probably hear from the waves, and it's a very special beach that I'm on today. It's just north of a little village in Normandy called Colville. It's Omaha. I've just come out of the Normandy cemetery, which is up there. Hold on, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here, but let's just spin it around that way, that's easier. So just up there on the hill, that's the American cemetery up there. Over 9,000 American soldiers lying there from all over the Normandy battlefield, not just here on Omaha and certainly not just here on the 6th of June. So if you spin you around again, I wish the sun would allow me to switch it around, but I really can't see. You've got the waves coming in here, and then behind me over my shoulder, down through the eastern section of the beaches. So that is gold, salt and Juno down there. If I was on a better camera than just on my phone, you would be able to see down there that there is a breakwater sticking out down there, and that's the mulberry coming out of gold. But so we're heading along now. This is an easy sector at the moment. Our walk on was easy red, which for those of you who know me and Darren, we're both American Civil War reenactors in the 4th US, and we're part of the 5th Corps. That's where the 5th Corps in 1944 came ashore. So that was a bit further down. I think I'm moved up a little bit further, so I am heading up towards Dog Sector. And also the infamous Dog Green, which is the opening credits from Saving Private Ryan. So yeah, absolutely stunning place to be at the moment, and it is surprising how beautiful it is considering the time it took place. But also what you can tell just by walking along the shoreline here, looking at is the sand dunes and the bluffs that they had to fight over. There's no wonder why this was the area that had the most casualties of the 6th of June compared to some of the other beaches. So let me just give it a try. Sorry about that, I'll cut off, trying to figure out how to turn the screen around when the sun is out and I'm ready on it, I can't see any controls. So looking forward, so let me just spin the camera around, looking up towards, like I say, up towards Dog Green sector, that the starting film of the Saving Private Ryan, and then the cliff jutting out, that's Point de Hoc. Now unfortunately in the last couple of weeks or so, a large chunk came crashing off of that, so it's that actual piece of the battlefield is under severe threat at present from the force of nature, which unfortunately there's nothing really we can do about it. It is just an act of nature. So but yeah, this is such a cool place to walk along at the moment. I mean, the section that's really quite quiet, it's quite eerie with all the waves just crashing in. Just looking like this, let's see sort of what the German positions were like and how awful it would have been to get off of this. So yeah, I'll try and post some more videos as we come through. I will definitely later on today be heading up to the German cemetery. I'll have a look down there, and if I've got time, get out onto Point de Hoc, have a look at the defensive formations that are up there, reason why the Rangers were sent up, but then also the assault point of the Rangers looking down. Other than that, what I'll do is I'll post these videos and also some of the pictures from, say for example, the cemetery and the museum, some of the places that to be honest I just don't feel right filming a video on at that point in time. So yeah, I'll post some of those videos up and then hope you enjoy the content. More coming from Normandy all the time this week, next 2 weeks. Definitely in a few weeks I'm going to be going up the Constantine Peninsula, so we'll be going to Cannon Town, the Mary Glees, up to a place called Barfleur, which is trying to get my medieval back on, and then swinging back down via Utah. I'll be heading over to Avamush, which is Gold Beach. That's where my great uncle came ashore in his landing craft, so real poignant moment for me when I visit there. That's Juno, the Canadian sector. And then on the last day, because I'm getting heavy out of Carnarstrom, that's exactly where Salt Beach is. And then obviously we docked at the mouth of the Carmarthen Canal, which if you follow that down about 5 miles inland, you come to Pegasus Spears with the operations of the 6th Airborne, UK 6th Airborne Division. So you're going to get all that content plus a load of medieval stuff coming up. So yeah, stay tuned and hope you'll enjoy. Okay guys, so we've come off the beach now and we're back behind the initial beach itself, and what surprised me is actually how far back from the beach that the bluffs and cliffs actually are, which you'll see in a moment because I'm heading up towards a special memorial, and that is the Fielder's Nest 65, I believe it's called. Hopefully there'll be a sign up here shortly, but it's quite a big chunk of it wall that's still surviving. You can see there's the head on the floor. So we're going to go up and have a little nose at that. Hopefully from there we'll get a good view down, because there's a lot of like beach houses and things that have been built since, so we'll see what we can see from up there. Yeah, so we're heading out to it now. One of the sort of big sort of gun emplacement areas, machine gun nest, I'm not too sure what it is, I haven't been up here yet myself. But yeah, so here it is, large chunk of the Atlantic Wall. Taken by the 7th Infantry Division. Troop list memorial there. And luckily there's an observation post, so let's have a look. We'll get the first road into the interior that gets opened by the engineers. But yeah, so from around here, hopefully you can see the beaches, so it's all got a secondary line of defence cover here, which is why, again, another reason why this battle here becomes such a nightmare for the Americans. So a quick look on Google Maps as located, it says Fielder's Nest 65, and after I turned the camera off around the corner and there was something really cool, so I'm going to see if I can get it from the back side here. Hopefully it's not too dark when we come in here, but look at this, German anti-tank position, still intact, well kind of, obviously been knocked out, but you can see how familiar all these sort of defences were. And from around this side, now we can see the gun turret sticking out, and that will allow the range of fire. Of course, that's if you don't camp around, you are buggered, but also it would have swung round and headed back to the beach. So, yeah, quite a significant strong point, and so far, okay, so now I'm heading back towards the American cemetery. This time though, instead of heading as I did this morning or earlier today along the coastline, I'm actually coming back inside the sand dune area. So we're going to get another example of the terrain of Omaha Beach. It wasn't just the beach that we was on earlier. We think, oh, it goes much further deeper than that. So just going to swing you around in a little panorama here. You know, the high ground up there, from there you will be able to shoot over the top of these sand dunes here. And obviously these sand dunes to the left here are a constant moving feature, so we don't know exactly how their positioning was on D-Day itself. But we do know, for many of you who studied any sort of military history, whether that's from myself, medieval, Napoleonic, in the American Civil War, other guys in the American Civil War, if you think of places like Little Round Top 7 Region Mont Saint Jean at Waterloo, high ground, natural fields of fire coming down, they're able probably from over there to be able to fire down directly onto the beach, clearing the sand dunes, and yet to fire back, the sand dunes are possibly blocking the route. So yeah, an absolute killing ground of Omaha Beach, and it's one of those things that sometimes you just have to walk on the battlefield to really understand just how that terrain, how that landscape affects what happens on the day. And it's no surprise having seen it today, that the amount of casualties were taken here. What I'd like to see over the next couple of days, this week or so, as I move around some of the other beaches, look at their terrain, their landscapal features. Are they similar? I'm guessing not. In fact, I know for certain that the eastern sector of the English Canadian beaches, it's more seaside towns they're attacking, a little bit like what we saw a little bit further back at the end of Red Sector. I didn't actually get Easy Sector. I didn't actually manage to get quite as far as Dog. I've got a couple of places I really want to go to today. So walking along a beach is I'd seen enough as what I want to see. The road up towards the German cemetery in Pont de Hoc will lead around the top of Dog Sector. So with a bit of luck, there might be a lay-by, something that I can pull over in and just jump out and have a look, get some pictures and maybe do a video. But hopefully I will catch up with you in a bit from the next location. So I'm just about to come over Omaha Beach now. In front of us you can see mountains of the bunker. I don't think it's a good place, but I can't see sort of an aperture that I need to see. So I'm guessing it's a fortified position for like a machine gun nest or something like that. But I don't think there's anything on top of it because it doesn't look like there was from what I can see here. But as I pan across you can see the beach in front of us now. At this moment in time the tide is in, so I have to remember that when I landed on the 6th of June I landed at low tide, so you can see the area on the sea where it's kind of brown and like green with a base of blue. You sort of come from there, so and now it's sort of like a pathway transition that leads into the bunker, so it doesn't take a lot to kind of guesstimate that was sort of the rough firing position for the troop station in the bunker. So as you can see here, if the tide was further out, what I'd field of fire and killing ground, troops inside there would actually have like I say, there's quite a lot of reasoning as to why the beach, specifically in this sector, became known as Bloody Omaha. You can see along there, a nice stretch going all the way around as far as you've walked and beyond. You can just about kind of make out, or I can, I'm not sure if you can from the camera, as far as that ground we got to. So a long stretch. Back now, heading back up to the cemetery, pick the car up, and it's along the beach, maybe see what we come across on the way in terms of not fine, in terms of positions where we can stop and have a look with little lay-by, stuff like that. If not, we'll catch up with you hopefully when we get to the German cemetery, which shouldn't be too long. So I've just arrived at Le Cambrai German cemetery here in Normandy. I was recommended to visit here by the lady that runs the campsite. So there is twice as many German soldiers buried here as there was of the American soldiers buried in the Normandy cemetery we was at earlier today. Similar to how I did it at the American cemetery, I wanted to film inside. I will just take some pictures and post them up later with all the videos. I've been to some German military cemeteries on the First World War ones on the Western Front, so I know how they look. So it'll be interesting to see what I find here, bearing in mind that the Germany of World War One and Germany of World War Two are two completely different entities. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like. They're also information centres, so I'm just going to pop in there first, then go in, have a look around, and then on Pont de Hoc after. So I just got back in the car from visiting the Cambrai German military cemetery, and let's just say that was rather unnerving. In similar way to the Langemak one at Ypres, the headstones are black basalt, and for each headstone it commemorates two soldiers. In the middle, there is a large tumuli communal grave with a black basalt statue on top, but it just still feels a bit evil to me, especially as a place
had a heavy influence of German bikers in there, which was a bit off-putting, I must say. But yeah, it's not. It doesn't have the same serene atmosphere as as an Allied cemetery, that's for sure. With the obvious white marble headstones, whether that's the crosses of the Americans or the or the usual British sort of headstone. That was it's sort of little plaques on the floor, and there's some crosses randomly placed, but I'm not too sure why. There was very little information in there. But yeah, rather unnerving that site. But now I'm gonna head off and try to get to Plant de Hoc before it all closes up. So hopefully get there and get some videos from there.
Okay, so it's the end of the day now. It's nearly 6 o'clock. Nearly 6 o'clock. I just thought I'd stop, make one last stop before heading back. So I have to come back down to Omaha Beach again. Except this time we're at the western end of it. So I will be turning off very shortly and then turning you around so you can see it. Because again, for some reason my camera at the moment doesn't want to switch mid-frame. But I'm now standing on the between Charlie sector, which is the most western sector of the beach, and Dog Greens. This is the most infamous. This is the one from the opening that seems to say by the point. And when I switch around, you will see just exactly why it was such a nightmarish place. So I'm going to switch around in a moment, and when I do, you'll just happen to see why. Also, there we go, we switched around. So as I was saying at the moment, I can't command the terrain. This is the terrain that's immediately beyond the beach here at Dog Green. So, all I don't know exactly where it was. It's on the whole sector. But you can find those beach houses, which obviously weren't there at the time. It just goes straight up, which obviously was a major defensive feature for the Germans. They would have had, they did have positions in there that a little bit further back from us where we're standing at the moment. Let's just think about it to kind of like a lookout position. But also just standard machine gun lists out there. It's not a thing to fight your way up. But first, of course, before they could even start getting to that, they had to get across the beach. And that's what the other thing I was talking about to you earlier in the day when we were walking around this morning. The tide was in to a point where as we were moving up, I could just see it by miles up. I'm sure you can just see the glinting of the Silver Monument the way I turned back this morning. It's a long old beach. The tide was right in, and there was one point where it was really sort of tight between the sand dunes and the water's edge. Now the tide has moved completely out. You can see hopefully the boys that are stranded on the sand will have underwater at full tide, so they'll spin around now. You can just see because most of the tide's pulled out already and it's not out full yet. Obviously they hit at low tide, not only they hit at low tide, it was the lowest tide of the year, so a long stretch of sand beach like this before you got to it would have just been everything. The only time realistically they did have on the day was one of those defences, things like the check gates, things like that. So I'm going to come back up now, and we're moving out of Dog Green into Charlie, and the reason is that if you see this pier here, and at the end there is a concrete slab block of it. Now that is the only remnant of the American sector's arm. Our car in the American sector did get destroyed quite early on by a storm. The British Mark had was running from which we'll be going down and have a look at gold later on. It's actually used as a water there, and there's good bits of it still intact. Large storm, but it didn't matter so much for the American people. Very quickly after that, they captured the Cherbourg, another bridge there. So they can drive at Sherbrooke Harbour in itself. The other harbour they wanted to cut across Carn, but also about the Carn's but there's a lot of German forces which went well into the mix. And GP, when the Americans broke out from the continent, from Omaha, the British sectors had sacked most of the American troops. So yeah, this is the last moment of the American sector, and it happened to appear as breakwater. To end your day. So I hope you enjoy these videos, and we'll see you again soon looking at some of the others. Goodbye. So we've come up now the Verville Draw from Omaha Beach, which you can see just down there through the tree line. Again, that's looking back towards Dog Sector and Dog Green and Charlie Sector there. What I wanted to show you is this. So this is what is called the Bridge of Freedom, and as I explained in the Gold Beach episode around Armanch, when there's actually a lot more of it surviving, 2 artificial harbours were created in England and towed over to Normandy so that there could be a harbour system in operation prior to taking the ports of Carn and Sherbrooke. And the one here at Verville, which is Mulberry Harbour number 1, gets destroyed on around about the 19th of July, I believe it is, by a storm that hits this part of the coast. It completely wrecks it and it makes it unusable, so then the munitions and equipment coming into Omaha Beach has to come by the beach, similar to it did on the 6th of June. The one in the British sector at Armanch still continues all the way through until all the ports until 1945. But what you can see here is a selection of the Bailey bridges that link the parts of the port, and this is known as the Bridge of Freedom. So this is the roadway off of the port. So there are several elements to it. So the big breakwaters that we saw at Armanch, out in the sea, the actual docking facility where the ships could moor up to, and then the roadway on and off of the dock side. And this is part of the roadway here, and it's preserved, like I say, up the Verville Drift from Omaha Beach here to the bluffs above Utah. Now there's a reason why I'm heading this direction. But first of all, I want to do a little bit of a preamble to that. So first of all, I don't like using Hollywood films as historical sources. They are not accurate 100%. So with that in mind, the 3 big hitters in terms of D-Day films / miniseries, The Longest Day, Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, I think do deserve a mention in this, because unlike a lot of these sort of films, they are extremely accurate to some degree. Now we start off with The Longest Day. Now, like a lot of the old early Second World War films that came out in the 50s and the 60s, because it's black and white, they can interchange and put a lot of archive footage in without you noticing it, so there is a lot of original filming done. The other point to make about that time period as well is that if you are looking at the late 50s and the early 60s at the time when the film was being made, a large amount of that production crew were veterans of the war. So for example, Richard Todd, who plays Major Howard in the film and is in charge of capturing Pegasus Bridge, was actually part of the 6th Airborne Division on D-Day itself. So for him, he's put in there quite a personal side of things onto that character. He possibly even knew Major Howard himself. If not, he can bring in his own experiences of his own war there. Then we move on to the series of the late 90s and early 2000s in Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers. Now, Saving Private Ryan, yes, we all know the story is rather fictitious. However, that first 20 minutes is still one of the most authentic Second World War pieces of Second World War filming you are ever likely to see. Then lastly, Band of Brothers. So we spoke about Band of Brothers. You'll see that if we watch the episode about the St Mary Glees operation. So they're the things that you're looking at. So why I was talking about the film is because I've come up here onto the bluff above Burville and above Dog Green. Now it's not quite, I can't quite get to where I wanted to go because of the drop off on the cliff. There is a barbed wire fence, unfortunately, running along the front of it, with quite heavy signs of no entry beyond this point, which is a shame because just over that cliff there is where there was a machine gun emplacement. And in my mind, in my knowledge, that is the machine gun emplacement that causes all the grief for Tom Hanks's team as they come off the beach in Saving Private Ryan, and would have been exactly where it was in real life. So that there is an element now of historical accuracy and truth, and that you tend to get that swamp sometimes in a film. So yes, I don't like using it, but in these circumstances they are so realistic, especially Band of Brothers. Let's face it, not only was it a true to life story, I'm not Saving Private Ryan, but it was also a properly researched history book by Stephen Lee Ambrose before it became a major HBO series. So again, there is an element of truth, and not only, or a lot of truth involved, and not only that, but because of when the series was made, all the actors were able to meet the surviving members of the company. So they again were able to pass that knowledge on in a similar way to the Longest Day did. But like I say, I came up here specifically to try and find the location. It's not really possible just because it is all fenced off. I'm guessing it, from what I can see here, it does drop quite steeply. So what we're going to do is going to go back down, have a look round, hopefully try and find roughly where this higher level machine gun nest was that caused so much trouble. As I've already mentioned before, when we're down there, you've got obviously the enfilading fire coming on. There is one higher up as well. You probably would have had heavy artillery back over in this direction somewhere, so there was no wonder why this became such a major issue, specifically at this sector, but more importantly across Omaha as a whole, in that it was the most heavily defended beach of the 5. We know that the Canadians took heavy casualties along at Juno, but a lot of that was more down towards tide and things like that, rather than the specific makeup of the Atlantic Wall at that position. So just to give you the terms and numbers, I'm not sure if I have mentioned this already, but by the end of the 6th of June at Omaha Beach, 3,300 plus men are either killed, wounded or missing. So it's a significant chunk. In fact, at the museum I was at a little while ago, it spoke about, I think it was the Bradford boys from Virginia, and it was a group of school leavers all joined up together, and they eventually all ended up in the same unit, came here to Normandy. 19 of them in total, and all 19 of them were killed here at Omaha. So it does have almost echoes of the British in the First World War, because the Americans don't go quite through quite a traumatic time in the First World War as the Brits do, which is why when it comes to World War II there is such a difference in emphasis between how the Brits want to go about fighting the war and how the Americans do, because they are not scarred by that previous conflict. Right, so I've come down from the bluffs down onto the jetty here at Omaha Beach. So just to give you a bit of an orientation as to where I am, this area just to the left of me as I'm looking at to see, or right if I'm looking inland, is Charlie sector. On this side, Dog Green sweeping around the entire bay. The American cemetery is over towards the far end of that, so we're at Verville. You've got St Laurent halfway along, and then Colville is all the way down the other end. If you was following earlier when I was walking on the beach, I walked from Colville to St Laurent. So this sector hasn't been walked, but there's a couple of reasons why I brought you out onto the jetty here. So a moment ago when I was up there on the cliffs and I was talking about that machine gun position, where that house is just above the flags is roughly where I was, just to the top of that cliff, which is why you had that fence that you couldn't go past because it's into someone's back garden. But that is roughly where the pillbox was, or the machine gun emplacement. You've then got a secondary machine gun emplacement underneath the memorial, which is where the flags are, and inside that is a German Pak 40 anti-tank gun. Anti-tank, also anti-landing craft, or anything anti sort of armour. To the right, just behind the trailers there is another defensive position. I believe again it's another possibly another Pak 40. It may be a machine gun position, I'm not too sure. You can't really get round that one to see it's all blocked up. If we swing round now into the cliffs facing Charlie, you can see hopefully you can see two people standing on top of another concrete formation. That's another Pak 40 position. So you can see how heavily defended this sector was. Around to the right again, you've got Charlie sector underneath the high cliffs, which lead round towards Point de Hoc. So it's not that one that you can see at the moment, it's the further one around. And the reason why is, obviously we was up at Point de Hoc before. Now Point de Hoc was a separate action, a lot of times a link to Omaha, but it was a separate action, deliberately designed to knock out the 105mm guns that were in place up on Point de Hoc. Now with that action, it wasn't again the firing from those guns would not affect the landing on the beach, but it would affect the ships coming in. So that's why it was deemed as a pre-mission to knock those out. So that's where that is, around there. Now there's another thing whilst I'm up here, is that this jetty is actually in the position of Mulberry Harbour number 1. And you can see down there that concrete panel at the end, block at the end of the jetty, that is part of that original Marlborough Harbour. Now, like I said before, when we was up at the Bailey Bridges, it gets destroyed in the storm and is out, is only in operation for such a limited period of time. But a piece of it still remains here. But yes, now we're going to go down onto the beach and have a little wander down through this sector. And I'm going to have a sunbathe, I think. So before we go further down the beach, I thought whilst I'm right here and now, I'll come over and have a look at the Mulberry Harbour. Now I can tell you that the tide has just gone out because my feet are slipping in the sand, but it's actually quite a good time to be here because obviously it's uncovered the remains here. So we're just going to have a look round. So as you can see, it's a large concrete, still on concrete structure. Very, very similar to the one at Monch, but probably a little bit smaller. Either that or it is sunken further into the sand because it is a lot further back on the beach than it was yet. And looking inside, I don't know how much you can see in there at the moment, but you can see it is completely hollow apart from apart from the steel structure. And I don't know, is it concrete? I think it could just still be steel, you know. Yeah, that is completely made of steel. So it's not concrete at all. It's got concrete on the top, but this part is steel. But my guesstimate is that the idea is that when I don't know, I think it is concrete. I'm honestly not too sure. It's certainly something I need to look up on. But the reason why they're all empty is to give it the ballast it needs to float. Once it's here, they probably do start to sink them in the same way that it would do a submarine. So we've crisscrossed the beach, not just Bhutan, but all the beaches of D-Day. I've discussed the landings and the advances and what defences they faced. And one thing that I haven't done is actually walked in the line of an advance. And so you might be able to notice now that I'm actually in the sea, because that's what we're going to do right here, right now on Omaha. My bag and my stuff is on the beach, so we are going to advance or walk from here straight up, and you're going to see a kind of illustration of what they usually are. So there's no fortifications up there anymore, so there's no fire coming, there's no beach obstacles, etc. But it's just an illustration from about knee depth in the water from where the landing craft has dropped them onto the beach. So here we go. It goes to show you, does it? Okay. There we go. So I've walked about halfway between the sea and the actual sea wall here, and you can see how long it took me to cover that distance, and that's just me walking at a normal walking pace. There's nothing on the beach to obstruct me. There's no fire or anything like that, so you can see just how far they actually had to come before they could get to pretty much where the sea wall is, where they can get some form of shelter from the fire that's coming down from the cliff. So I hope that gave you a little bit of an illustration as to what the advance across the beach what they was like, but in terms of distance, how far they had to cover, etc.